TransLattice is really about the deployment of enterprise-class applications in globally distributed environments. I want to tell you about how we got started. Several years ago, our CTO, Mike Lyle, was working as an entrepreneur in residence at DCM and was looking at new next-generation infrastructure companies, next-generation caching, WAN optimization. And he said, these things are just going to add further complexity to an already very complicated system. They're Band-Aids. And he said, what would you do? How would you deploy applications if you could start from a clean sheet of paper? And he said, I'd have to solve the distributed database problem, which had been unsolved for the past 25 years, but he figured it out. And what that enables you to do is to kind of do things in a whole new different way. Those problems that Mike was anticipating years ago, I think you see that they're happening. I think everybody has to deal with them. There are infrastructure failures from a variety of reasons. So what we did is we have a concept we call lattice computing. Again, it's about the distribution of applications in globally distributed environments. We developed a platform for transactional SQL-based applications that uses shared nothing resources and the world's first distributed relational database. I want to take a step back and say, what does the current infrastructure look like? What are the problems? You have the classic big data center model where you have lots of stovepipe silo technologies, database storage, all that stuff. The challenges are really integrating all of those things, and you make a change to one set, it can have an effect on something else in the stack somewhere else and cause it to have problems. Scaling these types of infrastructure products is tough, not only geographically, but also now in the cloud. Performance can be an issue as well. Note that you have a centralized infrastructure in a very decentralized world. Your customers, your employees are all over the place. You may have data compliance issues, and your resilience can also be a problem. Yes, you probably have a backup data center, but a lot of times that doesn't fail over, and it's also very expensive to maintain. A lot of times it remains cold, and so it's not only expensive, but sometimes it's not reliable. So we put the old Family Feud big X on that, if you remember the game show, and we say there's got to be a better way. And so what we've done is we've taken all of that stuff that's in the data center today, the database, the storage, all that stuff, and we put it on a TransLattice node. And that node can be either a physical appliance, or we can run that as a virtual instance in the cloud. And then what we do is we take all of those nodes and we spread them around wherever your company is, including in the cloud. So to a user now, it looks like they're operating from one big centralized database or application infrastructure, but it's actually distributed all over the place. You get much better scalability from this type of infrastructure. We simply add nodes when you need more storage, more CPU, whatever. And you get better performance. Much like what Akamai has done for static web content, we now do that for dynamic application data. And we actually bring that data closer to where you are. So you're going to get much better performance, local performance. Data control is better with this type of infrastructure. We have what we call location policies. So you can say, okay, I want my data, this data cannot leave this country of origin, or this data cannot go into the cloud for security purposes, for example. Or this data must remain in this data center and one other that I designate. And finally, the distributed nature of this architecture is much better for resilience. It inherently has it in the design. Basically, we can also set what we call redundancy policies. So you can say my data needs to be, my information needs to be on at least 3 different nodes on 2 different continents. So in this case, if I lose a continent, if I lose South America, the rest of the system, the rest of the world continues to process unabated. Meanwhile, the users in South America will get shuttled off to additional sites to continue processing. At some point in the future, when I want to replace that, and it doesn't have to be at 2 in the morning, I bring a new system replacement system up, and the rest of the system will repopulate that replaced node to the current status, to the current state of the system. And you can do this for any kind of application. It can be a classic CRM, Salesforce application, or next generation social applications. All of this better performance, granular data control, the resilience, we can do this all at a much lower cost. It's a truly disruptive technology. So what it costs to deploy a classic big enterprise class application or over is 70% off of what it normally takes. Targets enterprises, government, ISVs that want to SaaSify their offerings. Customers, we're looking for customers and investors. We already have $9.5 million from DCM. Recourse, we were all there. A lot of our management team successfully bought by Symantec. We had distributed security experience and distributed systems experience there. Great board, Jerry Porras, author of Built to Last. We're in beta, Q2 release, and we're lining up pilot projects.
Great, wow. With a few seconds to spare.
Oh, when it turned red, I thought it was out.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Bang, I just